Well, good morning, everybody. Today, Chris and I are going to go over some of the tools that the Mapping Branch and Data Management section of Transportation Planning and Programming Division have developed for not only TxDOT's use, but also the public, and those that are also our consultants and contractors. So let me go ahead and get started here. First off, I just want to give you an idea of where we're at within TxDOT. So, as I mentioned, we're within the Transportation Planning and Programming Division, the Data Management section, and this is where Chris, Asia, and I reside. Our Data Management Section Director, Michael Chamberlain, is also here with us today. So what do? We deliver the HPMS submittal and our certified mileage every year to FHWA. We also maintain the functional classification of all the roadways in coordination with our districts and our MPO partners. We also, along with that, maintain all of the 300,000 miles of roadway in the state. 80,000 or around 82,000 of which are on system, but we keep track of all the geospatial and attribute data for all of that roadway. So you can imagine that's a pretty decent sized database. We also provide planning and GIS support not only for the planning division at TxDOT, but also our partners in the districts, and GIS support TxDOT wide. And so along with that, we have GIS sharing with the divisions, districts, and other agencies. One of the other things we do is we also coordinate collection of county roads from each of our county judges each year. So, and then finally, of course, being a GIS branch, we also have yearly products that we produce. So we have our departmental map, our railroad map, our county map book that we produce every 2 years, and our planning map web and desktop, which I'm going to go ahead and show you guys today. So why is this important? So roadway funding is determined by our mileage certification. So it's also important, if we get some kind of request from legislation or the administration wanting to know, the number of lane miles statewide, it's important to keep that roadway inventory up to date. GIS supports the mileage certification, and along with all stages of the roadway development, including planning, construction, and maintenance phases of roadways. We assist our employees with GIS issues and provide GIS leadership throughout TxDOT. With our Gis Coordination, we have some monthly meetings that Chris is going to talk about later on. And some of the applications we've produced to help folks identify where their planning projects are at, and along with funding. So let's talk about the statewide planning map. One of the things that General Weber talked about yesterday was providing TxDOT with tools, the tools for you to be able to do your job. So one of the things at TPP that we're trying to do is be able to put these tools in the hands of the people out there in the divisions to be able to help them do their jobs. And also for the public to have access to the various data that's out there. So we have two different versions of our statewide planning map. We have the web and desktop. And just by a show of hands, how many folks have actually worked with the planning map? So, okay, good, a fair amount. So most of you guys will be familiar with some of this. I'll probably go through the functionality pretty quickly. But it's really our primary map for planning related content. It's available via the internet. We have an internal and external, so there's some info that is available just to TxDOT employees. Some of the new features we've rolled out in our last version was being able to query inventory attributes. We had additional layers, additional base maps, so it's not just our planning base map. You can have imagery. We're also working on some enhancements that I'll go over shortly. And then we also have the desktop version. The desktop version is an ArcMap map package, and that actually packages all the GIS data together for you. So if you want to get in and really start doing your own queries, definition queries, spatial queries, you can have access to all of our data. The planning map base map is also becoming the standard for a lot of the applications around TxDOT. So PMIS, we recently created a version of our planning map base map for them to use in their new Agile Assets application. We use it in Project Tracker, our grid application that we're going to go over, Proposition 1, ArcGis Online, our open data portal, and we'll cover a few of these in this presentation. So real quick, the Planning Map web. As I mentioned, we have an internal and an external source for that. If you go out to TxDOT.gov, you can easily just put in Planning Map or go to the TPP division homepage and you can find our statewide planning map. So a couple of things. It's easy. We have easy functionality to be able to turn overlays on and off, switch between the various layers we have. For instance, this is an example of our base map right here. All of our roadways, the cities. That's an example of our Google Imagery that we have. We have ADT values that Cleo was talking about. We put those out there with some of the historical values. Control sections, functional classification, speed limits. There's quite a bit of information out there. So what are some of the current limitations that we have? Currently, you can't export or modify the data. We'll actually cover Open Data Portal, which is going to be kind of a solution to that in a later slide. You can't do custom maps. So you can print out what you have there, but you can't really add any additional information that you might want to put on the map. And it's a little bit limited in its query functionality. There's no spatial queries or definition queries that you would get from using, say, Arcgis. And again, you can't add your own personal data. And it's just a snapshot in time right now. So I'll quickly go through this. This is just kind of a quick little overview of the interface, but we have the map tools that help identify, search, measure, query. You can create your own sketches. Additional base maps that we have there. So along with our standard statewide planning map base map, we have the Esri streets, we have imagery, and we have topos as well. Under our search, you can search for any on-system road in the state. You just have to put in the specific naming convention. You can see there's an example there of searching for FM2220, and that's, you can see as you actually start typing in, the functionality will start to guess for you, basically just like if you're doing Google search. So that's the type of head functionality that we have. We also have, standard measure functionality. Pick a spot, measure. If you want to be European and measure in kilometers, if there's some other reason you want to do that, miles, we have all that. You can also query using wildcards. So if you want to query all routes with a basic ADT, we have that functionality as well. And one of our more advanced tools is our sketch tool. And basically this tool allows you to draw in an estimated roadway that you want to put in. You would basically put in multiple options for the type of roadway. It's a way to estimate costs on building a new roadway. So you have a few options. Is it a new roadway? Area type, is it rural or urban? Is it an arterial? And when you draw the route, it'll basically calculate the costs when you get to this point. And if you want more information on some of those calculations we put in behind the scenes, you can speak with one of us afterwards. So I talked a little bit about some coming enhancements to the statewide planning map web. So there's a few things that we want to put out there. We're going to be adding right-of-way information. We're going to add the ability to turn multiple layers on and off. And we also give the ability for our internal TxDOT folks to provide feedback on the planning map and what types of enhancements they'd like to see. So we have an internal SharePoint tracking site where you can submit enhancement ideas, and we go through, there's a team of about 5 or 6 of us that look through the enhancements and decide which ones we want and what the priority are, and then we put a rollout date on there. So if you have suggestions on ways that we can help you do your job better, please feel free to go out to the SharePoint site and submit your suggestions. So the desktop. So what does the desktop offer over the planning map web? Well, as I mentioned, it's an ArcGIS map package, so it gives you the ability to query, do spatial queries, you actually have all of the data there yourself. You can add your own custom data. And it also has a template with it. So our standard GIS mapping template. So if you'd like to print your own maps, you can use our standard template, or you can go in and adjust the template for yourself. How do you access the statewide planning map? Well, we have a link here on our slide. I think these are going to be available afterwards. But you go to our GIS coordinator site, click on that. We're going to have our statewide planning map link over here to download the desktop version. We update that monthly. And one of the important things is we have our user manual to go along with that, so once you download it. And one of the other advantages of using the desktop is that you can pull in the route identify tool, and this allows you to actually query the linear data and get your DFO information off of the line work. So all of our line work has is LRS. It's a linear reference system, and it's based off of the length. It's the DFO, and you can easily get your information off of that if you need to put that measure information into another system. And I'm going to turn it over to Chris for Arcgis Online.
Hello, I'm Chris Bardash. How many of you out there are TxDOT employees? Okay. How many of you have used either TxDOT or none, have used Arcgis Online? Well, good. That's probably more than I expected, but not as many as will be. And I really want to show you, I mean, things on the web, cloud-based services, this is really the direction that the world is going. It's the direction that GIS is going. And any of you who've used the statewide planning map web are already Arcgis Online users. You just don't realize it. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Arcgis Online, because you're going to need to know, basically. Well, what is Arcgis Online? It's a cloud-based platform. So, you know, it's just a website where data is served up. What is a service? Well, think of it, I mean, I'm really trying to demystify what Arcgis Online is here, because it's a tool that we're going to be using a lot. And like I say, you're already using it. Think of it as just a folder or a database out on a website somewhere, and you access that much like you would access a folder or a database on your network drive, but you access it via a URL. So it's really very analogous to that situation. The server, however, draws the layer from the internet, from a computer out there in the cloud somewhere, in some data center, you know, rather than from your network. Well, what's the benefit of that? You know, why do we want to do that? It seems like that would be expensive, or it'd be slower. But the thing that it lets us do is it lets us put data out there more frequently, up to date, live. We can create connections to it directly and have that data update. It draws faster because you can control the way that it comes down through the pipeline versus through our older, you know, network connections. And, you know, more importantly is you can access it anywhere. I mean, you know, we have a new initiative at TxDOT to allow employees to work from home, and, you know, things like that, or folks outside the agency that want to be able to access this data, doing it online is enabling you to do that easier. So if you go out, you just search Arcgis Online, arcgis.com. That's the website for Arcgis Online. TxDOT has its own landing page for Arcgis Online. That's what it looks like there. For anyone that's a TxDOT employee, you can sign in to Arcgis Online using your regular network credentials. So that's something we just implemented. It's pretty cool, so you don't have to remember another password. And I'm going to go a little faster because I think we're going to run out of time. So once you go out there, it's really easy to search. You just go to the search box up on the top, you type in what you want to search. If you're searching for any of our data, you want to search, you know, use Texas or TxDOT in the keyword. And then you get a choice usually of a feature service or a map service. And I just want to explain that real quick. A map service is basically just a snapshot. It's quick performance, so if you just want to bring it in your map to be able to see it or use it to overlay with other layers in your map, that's the one you want. But if you want access to changing the symbology or querying or looking at the attribute data, then you want to get the feature service. And the cool thing is that you can either look at the data in ArcGIS Online in their map viewer, or you can pull it down into ArcMap. So here's an example. You can open it in their online viewer. That's the district boundaries there, and that's what they look like. And you'll see if you open it in ArcMap, it's the same thing, and it looks like any regular layer. In fact, most people don't even realize that it's being served up from the cloud because it looks just like something that was on your desktop or on the database somewhere. So now let's talk about the Open Data Portal. Anybody heard of the Open Data Portal? This is ArcGIS Online's or Esri's out-of-the-box portal that they provide, and through our enterprise license agreement at TxDOT, we have access to this really cool tool. And what it does basically is it provides access to GIS data that's hosted either on ArcGIS Online or on our servers, access to any GIS data across the department. And again, it's online. It's basically the same data that you can find on ArcGIS Online, but it is served up through this handy portal. So we're developing this right now. This is what the test environment looks like. And we're going to be launching this pretty soon. One thing I want to point out is the base map, like Mike talked about. Again, this is our base map that we developed for TxDOT. And you're going to start seeing that more and more. So the Open Data Portal, it just brings services together. That's what a portal is. When you hear that terminology, it's just bringing things in from different locations into one place so it's easy to access. So ArcGIS Online is pretty easy to find data, but the Open Data Portal is even easier. And it's going to be out on TxDOT.gov. And it's going to provide access to all of our GIS services. It's something that we're sorely lacking at TxDOT and behind the times, that we don't have a one-stop shop place to go to access GIS data. Most agencies, especially large agencies like TxDOT, already have this. So we're trying to come up to speed. Well, what are the benefits? One-stop shop. You can download things in multiple formats. The data is accessible from anywhere. It's over the web. You don't need special permission, or you don't need to log in or sign in or anything. It provides for us, it provides easy access for district employees. They consume a lot of our data that we help produce and publish, and they're always fighting to get access to it because of slow internet connections and whatnot. It also reduces data requests for us. I mean, that's kind of a big thing that we do. People, and probably a lot of you, have called or contacted us in one way or another looking for data, or frustrated that you haven't been able to find data. We can control the format and visualization of the data. So like we have certain color schemes for control sections or for functional classification, and so we can put that out there in that format, so it helps make it a little bit more easy to digest and understand. And very importantly, it satisfies the law. We are required to make this data available to the public. And so this is the best way to do that. Just a quick preview of what it looks like. You can search by keyword or by category or in the map. So there you can see I searched Big Bend National Park. It zoomed into that area. Any data that's there falls under that spot would come up. Or you can click on the little icons at the bottom, the big icons at the bottom. When you do, you come to another page, and it shows you all the results. And there's a detailed description, basically the metadata there. It shows you those blue boxes are the extents of the data, and they're just all piled up on top of each other. You can explore the details. You can look at the tabular data right there in the site. So you can see, is this the data that I'm looking for, either by looking at the description and the metadata, or does it have, the attribute data that I'm looking for? And then you can filter that. So if you only need data for the Lubbock district, then you just filter by Lubbock, and then you hit the download button, and you can download it in any of those formats. They're also adding file geodatabase to that. You don't see it there, but we'll be adding that. So another service, I'm really excited to be working for this agency and for this section and for my group in particular. We have a lot of extremely talented folks, and this is a great time to be working here because so many things coming together all at once. I mean, for so long, we've had these dreams of having all of this data and all of these resources available and helping all of you find those, and it's happening. We have so much. So one of the things we're offering is Google Imagery service. We had a contract, TxDOT, TxDOT, and a few other agencies to purchase Google Imagery, like what you see when you're out on Google Maps. And here's just a snapshot of someplace near our office, randomly. The cool thing about Google Imagery is that it's high resolution. And unlike some of the other imagery or like the NAPE imagery that you probably have used that only gets updated infrequently, Google is continually flying and reflying, especially in metropolitan urban areas. So it's up to date. It's 6-inch resolution. It's by providing this service, it's widely accessible. It's a service that you can bring into ArcMap. We're also putting it in our statewide planning map and other tools. It's cost effective. It's actually ends up being cheaper than us flying the whole state. And key, it's available to any government agency. So some of the limitations are, as opposed to flying the whole state in one time, the imagery is for multiple years, so you can see a little bit more pronounced difference in the seams, between different years. They might be leaf on or leaf off for different seasons. We're not sure, whether we're going to do this contract for forever. So right now it's yearly, and it's looking good, like we're going to keep doing it. But basically, it's a service, so once we stop paying the contract, then they just shut it down, and we don't have it anymore, access to it. It wasn't intended as a CAD service. Again, this is a collaborative effort across many state agencies to use the GIS tool, but we have been working with IT to find solutions to that, and so there's a workaround in MicroStation in particular. I believe you can use it in AutoCAD, and I believe Chris Deidre tested it in TransCAD, so there are workarounds to using it in CAD. For non-government use, if you're a consultant with TxDOT and you have a current contract, you can get access to it. And if you're another state, or if you're another state agency, or you're a city or a university, county, you can have access to it as well. So it's pretty widely accessible. There's the link to the TxDOT site if you need to request access. So let's talk about GIS coordination. We have a lot of stuff going on. And we feel like it's our obligation to try to share that with you all. So we have monthly GIS coordinator meetings. We want to communicate all these cool tools and resources that we're helping to develop and that we've found elsewhere that we want to share with you. Share it across the department. We're trying to help institutionalize this whole communication effort. We feel like we're not just an island doing our thing. We have resources that we can help other TxDOT employees with, and we feel like it's our obligation to share. And following the outsourcing of IT and somewhat of the GIS leadership that they may have provided, we feel like there's a vacuum there, and we're the largest GIS shop in TxDOT, and so we're just kind of assuming that leadership role of pushing GIS forward with a lot of these resources that you see. So, we invite you to come and join us. We have monthly meetings, like I said. We have a SharePoint site to help organize all this stuff together. If you're new to GIS or you have a new GIS savvy employee that you're hiring, point them to this site. And you can find it by going to our TxDOT SharePoint site, going to TP&P, and then I think under TP&P it's a link on the left-hand side. So I mean, we have the statewide planning map links there, the GIS contact list if you want to find other GIS folks either in your district or near you in your division. You can find them there, other resources to count on. Updates to the statewide planning map we list on there, like Mike talked about earlier. Lots of documentation. We have it on the 4th Tuesday of every month, 10 to 11:30. We do a WebEx, or if you're in town in Austin, you can come stop by. We send out email invitations to the folks on the GIS contacts list, so go sign up or contact one of us, we'll put you on the list. We don't spam you with a bunch of email. It's just basically the meeting announcements and anything cool that we're launching or announcing. We talk about the types of things that we have to offer, updates to the statewide planning map, and we do lightning talks, which is kind of fun. Usually every month we have somebody come and present on some cool little tip or trick that you can utilize in GIS. You can sign up on the site. Anybody can edit the list. So let's talk about another cool tool we just launched September 1, Grid. Any of you know about TRM? Raise your hand. You know what TRM is? Okay, it stands for Texas Reference Marker, but it's really a mainframe database where we traditionally maintained all of our roadway inventory. It's a big deal. Well, it was developed back in 1988, or began, launched in 95. It was a mainframe system. I'll show you what it looks like in a second, for any of you who haven't experienced that. It's non-spatial, meaning there's no GIS behind it. It's just a database. It used reference markers to locate everything, and reference markers only. There was limited logic checks, so you had to be really diligent about keeping things in the right spot. And it was only on system. The off-system phase never happened. That's what it looks like. Some of you work in this environment still, but not for TRM. Now we have Grid, and I'll show you what that looks like in a second. Grid stands for Geospatial Roadway Inventory Database. It's web-based, modern browser-based application. It's a spatial application, so it is a GIS. It replaced TRM and RI as the roadway inventory for Texas. We launched it end of August, September 1, and it brings the road map data and the map and the roadway data together into one application. And that's a big deal because, up until this point, a huge part of our job was trying to get those two systems that didn't line up to line up. And now it happens automatically, and this is what it looks like. It's a modern interface. It's really pretty simple. We do a lot of the maintenance in TP&P, but also district folks like Stacy, hi Stacy, maintain data in this system. I'm not going to go into a lot of details about it, but it holds all of the roadway assets in TxDOT. So who are the users of Grid, or what are the uses of Grid? These are some of them. I'm not going to name them all off, but probably some of the biggest ones is HPMS. I mean, that's what we report to the feds, and we're going to be able to do a lot quicker. And the other thing about it is, we're going to start to be able to publish this stuff faster, so that you're not waiting. It's not a year old. The data's not a year old. We're going to be able to put it on the statewide planning map. We already have some of it on there, but we can put more on the statewide planning map, make it available on Arcgis online and via the open data portal. So all of this stuff is coalescing. It's coming together. It's really an exciting time for us. So what are the things that are in Grid? Assets like speed limit signs or speed limit ranges on the highway. Shoulder width, shoulder type, guardrails and barriers, signs, toll roads, construction areas, the national highway system. These are all assets. One of, or some of the 123 assets that we manage in grid. And they are, basically their points or their linear assets. There's some examples there. Speed limits, that's not just where the speed limit sign is, but it's the length of that area. Speed limit starts here and goes there. Well, how do we do that? I mean, how does that work? Grid is based on a linear referencing system, and that's the GIS world in which we live in our shop. And basically what that means is if you have a route that's 10 miles long, any location along that route has a measure that's called an M value. And so you can, click on that spot and find out what that is. That's the distance from origin in this case. Well, assets are just located along the line in that way. And so we don't have to break up the line. Oh, this little slice is 4 lanes, and then this little slice is 6 lanes. It's one continuous piece of line work, but it has all of this stuff stacked up on top of it. And it's done that that is done through the measures on the line. So you see examples that, there's only 3 buttons on this thing, but I managed to hit the wrong one. So from 0 to 1, the speed limit is 1 value, and then from 1 to 3, it's another value. And so this is just a continuous line with measures on it. And that's the way that points and linear assets are managed on there. Well, we have multiple linear referencing methods in here, and Grid manages all of them. So our traditional one is the reference markers, and then you have DFOs. So reference markers, you measure an offset from a reference marker. DFOs, you measure the distance from the beginning or the origin of the line. And control section mile points are measures within each control section. And those are all important for different reasons and different uses. And here's a great little example of that. So here's a stretch of highway with our reference markers on it. The DFO range might be 100 to 150 miles along this stretch. A control section that falls on there might go from 0 to 27 miles, and then the next one from 1 to 24 miles, and they can start at random numbers. So a point right here can have these measure values. So that's reference marker 140 plus 1.7 miles, the DFO range of 141.7 miles, or the control section mile point, 15.7. Okay. All right. Mike, I'm going to talk about Project Tracker. I knew we'd have to rush through it.
Okay, well, real quick, we'll go over Project Tracker. This is a tool that's been out there. TPP did an update to it, and basically we made it more spatially enabled. Now you can track your projects via a map. So, it's pulling from all these different sources: DCIS, PeopleSoft, Site Manager, Primavera, and our Arcgis Online. This is also something you can search via TxDOT.gov. Just a quick little view of how you can search by county, district, state house, state senate, U.S. House, district. There's also multiple ways to download it: PDF, Excel, XML. And it gives you a breakdown of the projects by the phases they're in of the UTP. So construction scheduled, finalizing for construction, under development, or the long-term planning. And there's a little breakdown there of where each of the projects in the UTP fall. And it basically gives you a lot of information from all those sources: project summary, contact information on who's running the project, project construction costs, milestones, and the funding. And just a quick little overview of kind of the new interface that's here. Your filter of your drop-downs by your projects. These are all the projects that are within that county, And you can see the basic information that comes across there with the project ID, the CSJ. There's also resources out to the UTP if you want to go to look at that 1,000-page document. Feel free to do that. And again, this is kind of an idea of the map-based view. So now you can actually browse around via the map, click on a project, and you'll get the basic information that pops up via the project tracker. And all of the information is updated daily except for the financials, which right now I think are monthly, but there's a plan in the future to have that more frequent as well. So.
I don't want to miss this part, so forgive me if I go a couple minutes over, but any of you heard about the guardrail end treatment project? Maybe a few of you in the districts. No, not very many. Well, I'm going to tell you about it anyways. It's pretty cool. Basically what happened was that TxDOT was getting a lot of heat about some guardrail end treatments. That's what they look like there. That's what we're talking about. That were, you know, maybe deficient. And so administration wanted to know where these things were. Well, we didn't have any inventory of where they were. But John Barton said, well, we need to know. He came to us in May, and or you know, a group of division leaders say, how are we going to solve this project, this problem? We raised our hands and said, we think we have a way to do it. He wanted to know by July 4th. So we developed an application in 3 weeks, and then every single TxDOT maintenance office sent at least one crew out, and in a span of a month drove every on-system road and collected 150,000 points of guardrail end treatments. And the way that we did that is through this. That's my phone. That's a screenshot. We developed this app so that they could drive down the road, one driver, passenger, collecting on an iPhone, and they could just go left and right, just drive down highway speed. They didn't have to slow down. They didn't have to pull over, disrupt traffic, or get into any dangerous situations. It was a fair weather only project, and we still got it done in a very rainy month. But basically, they could just drive their whole maintenance section. It usually took a day or two for each maintenance section, and collect every single end treatment. And the reason I was so excited to tell you about this, and I want you to know about it, is because this has a lot of implications for potentially collecting data. I mean, we know now that we can collect an asset like this in a very quick period of time. In fact, if everybody had gone out in the same week, we could have had it done in a week. So it's pretty exciting to think about what the possibilities are out there if we needed to collect something else, and I'm sure we will. So with that, that's our contact information. Does anybody have any questions? I think we're out of time, but we'll be down here.